Hey guys. So we're waiting for this special announcement by Donald Trump, which is yeah, I think which is very let me just get rid of this blurs. Which is we're not really sure what is going to happen, right? We're hearing now from the news that maybe from news sources, this is just going to be some kind of announcement about moving Space Command, but that's not really why we're watching, right? We are hoping to find out a little bit more about what is going on with Donald Trump. Specifically, you know what I was talking about earlier today. Why did he look last Tuesday, a week ago, like the image on the left, his big, broad smile, his coiffed hair, his suit? And why is he looking like a schlub with his mouth sort of hanging open, vacant look in his eyes, and not looking at the camera, right? We have several of these comparisons here. This was also Donald Trump last Tuesday on the left, and over the weekend, barely able to move his mouth. And of course, there he is again, and again, and again. And again. Obviously, what's going on here is this is not just a proof of life photo or opportunity, but a proof of competence. My friends, Donald Trump was not competent before, and there is nothing at all that has changed. So while we are waiting for this press conference to begin, I want to take this opportunity to let you know that tomorrow, Wednesday at 10:30, is when Ro Khanna and I think Tom Massey is joining him to have the press conference with the Epstein victims. And so I'd like to share that with you now while we are waiting. And I've got that right here. Here we go. Let's go. Sorry, I'm trying to blow this up.
12 Democrats and 12 Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. Look, this is not about Donald Trump, and it's not partisan. This is about justice for the victims of rich and powerful men who abused underage girls. And 10 of these victims are speaking out for the first time at a press conference that Massey and I are organizing on the steps of the Capitol on September 3rd. In this country, people want transparency, they want accountability. I'm confident we're going to get the 218 votes for the discharge petition.
Talk about that news conference, because you're kind of touting it, that it's going to be, if not explosive, there's going to be some news made.
Well, these victims haven't spoken for decades. When Epstein got that lenient plea deal, no one talked to the victims or their lawyers. No one talked to the victims or their lawyers when Maxwell was sentenced. No one has ever heard, what do they want? And my belief is when the American people actually hear the victims for the first time, they are going to sympathize, their hearts are going to be broken, and all the victims are saying is for closure, we need the Epstein files released. That there are a lot of other rich, powerful men, politicians, business leaders who have committed abuse and who have not been held accountable. That's what we're going to hear on September 3rd, and people are going to be outraged, and I don't see how after that the House can't vote for the release of these files.
So that is what we're talking about happening tomorrow at 10:30. And I will be here. I mean, I'll be at home, not in my office. Um, but we will be here. I'm going to continue the show until and through that press conference tomorrow, Wednesday. Okay. So I'll see you bright and early at 9. Now, again, while we are waiting, let me just check in and see what is going on over there at the White House website. So here we go. It says live news, stay tuned. We'll be with you shortly. So, we'll be live again shortly. I mean, so we're waiting, my friends, for what is supposed to be an announcement by the president. I don't know who decided last night that they were going to make noise about an announcement, but some kind of announcement. No one thinks Donald Trump is going to resign, as I talked about earlier in the day. This is not a guy who would resign, and there's no viable way with the sycophantic cabinet he has to push him out. Not these folks who were praising our dear leader so assiduously on Tuesday. So since we have 8 minutes until this news conference is supposed to begin, as if they ever begin on time, I thought I'd also share with you some more videos so you can see how he looked on Tuesday when they were praising him. So the cabinet meeting, I wanna share that with you, and this is from the White House. Okay, and I'm gonna start here, so you can sort of see. I mean, he's never really the picture of health per se, but he certainly was basking in the praise on Tuesday. He certainly didn't have a long brimmed hat and a downcast face and confused eyes on Tuesday. So let's share some parts of that press conference for you while we are waiting for, I'm sorry, the cabinet meeting while we wait for the press conference. Here we go. So again, guys, I'm going to make a note. I'm going to create a banner here, or a note
Are you all
here,
set?
create banner
You all ready? Nice group.
last
Big group. I want
Tuesday.
to thank you all for being here as we prepare to celebrate Labor Day, when we honor the incredible hardworking men and women of our country, which is doing very well, I have to tell you. Every policy of the Trump administration is designed to lift up the American worker, promote great paying blue collar jobs, and to rebuild the industrial bedrock of our nation. It's also obviously for great defense. We have the greatest military in the world. We rebuilt it largely in my first term. Some of it was stupidly given away to Afghanistan. For what reason? Nobody can figure that one. But it was still a relatively small amount of what, if you compare. The concept of what they did, however, is just incredible. But the country is doing well. We're respected all over the world like never before, probably.
Oh God, I can't
went to
listen
NATO.
to this. Let's look at to when they talk about him. Okay, yammer, 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 yammer.
So there has to be.
Okay,
When you
yammer,
called me
yammer.
in November.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do when they start praising him.
Okay, thank you. Great job.
Partnerships, and they're learning on the job so that when they graduate from high school, they're ready to go into the workforce, because we know with all of these wonderful jobs that are coming back into the country through AI, through just our normal jobs, that we need electricity.
Last 8 months. And I hear these, I travel all over the world. In Hostage Square, they talk about you reverentially. It's really quite amazing. I sometimes wish that I had a cam recorder with me and I could put you right there as I listen to it. I was in Gaza, the first American diplomat. On your behalf.
And I appreciate the help of Christy and Marco on this very issue. But in May, we said, listen, it's a safety issue if you can't proficiently speak the English language. And we gave states a little over a month to comply. And Washington, California, and New Mexico have
this job under the president. It's an honor to do this job under the president's leadership.
You are the single finest candidate since the this Nobel Award was ever talked about.
Thank you for your leadership, for your boldness, for your clarity, for common sense.
This is just such a great opportunity, really, to recognize your leadership.
It's pretty great to celebrate Labor Day with a builder who loves labor.
You have saved this country by making it the best place in the world to do business again.
You are really the transformational president of the American worker, along with the American flag and President Roosevelt.
Okay, guys. While we're waiting, I'm just gonna have I'm gonna share that screen from the White House, and I'm gonna be right here. We're just gonna wait. We're just waiting, for that announcement. And I kind of want to hear from you all. I want to hear from you all what you in the chat, my friends. What are you hearing that's going to be happening here? What are you looking for, right? We're hearing that maybe this announcement is just simply about moving the Space Force. What are you guys hearing about this? What do you want to know, and what are you looking out for? Um, that's what I am curious about. Like, what do you expect? Because for me, as we wait, I'm kind of wondering why they are. Thank you, Colleen. It's so nice. Kind of wondering, because my big question is, what's going on with his face here? We've talked about it before. Did he have a stroke or a medical issue? I mean, look at him on Tuesday at that cabinet meeting, and look at him to the right. Doesn't, I mean, it looks like the same man, but, he doesn't want us to see his eyes. His head is downcast. He doesn't have an animated face. His mouth is kind of like not really forming. The muscles don't appear to be fully working, or he is just um, exhausted, drugged out. I don't know. I feel like this is one of the most telling ones. Here he is smiling, his bright, big Cheshire smile, and animated eyes, jaw. And you look to the right from over the weekend, and he is just, his mouth isn't really open. His eyes are staring vacantly. And of course, there is this photo that I used in my thumbnail. You can see me putting the MRIs behind it, but I didn't alter this photo. I just dropped it in here and removed the background. But I think, and this is just a close up of something that the AP, I think it was Getty Images had, that a journalist took. And you see his eyes look vacant. His mouth is in a shape we don't usually see his mouth in. And I'm keeping my eye on what's going on over there at the White House, but they haven't started their press conference. That that shouldn't that shouldn't surprise any of us. Um, you know, Again, I'm concerned that we won't be able to get rid of this person who is clearly out of his mind. We know that he was talking crazy before. I should just, let me just give you his, last Monday, the day before the cabinet meeting, what he said about wanting to be a dictator. Let's just hear that
As you all
now.
know, Chicago is a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense, and I'm a smart person.
Okay. He's not a man with great common sense or a smart person. He thinks that you can take more than 100% off of a price. You can't. Um, but even there, he looks so much more animated than what we saw of him from these still photos or the screen caps from the videos where we saw him. I also want to add something else on Monday, again, the day before he was last.
But then he goes on television and says, oh, Trump is a dictator, he's a dictator. And a lot of people have here. So the line is that I'm a dictator. Television says,
I'm sorry.
oh, Trump is a dictator, he's a dictator. Television says, oh, Trump
Sorry, I gotta pause this. I think this actually wasn't Monday. I think this might have been the cabinet meeting itself, the second day. So this is the 26th where he's mentioning wanting to be a dictator again.
is a dictator, he's a dictator. And a lot of people have here. So the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator.
That was that same meeting. Monday, he says, people say they want a dictator. I don't want to be one. Tuesday, at that cabinet meeting that we just saw everyone sucking up to him, he said, people say they want a dictator if I stop crime. And now we have not seen him speak in public since then, since Tuesday. And we're getting ready. Of course, it's 2:01, and we are not yet seeing anyone yet. From the live news feed. I'm not sure where and why they are so late. But there's more craziness from Donald Trump. Let's also look at something he was saying that was um, really kind of nuts about wind. Let's play this.
But man, you're gonna have a bad awakening very soon. It's gonna be very bad. They're ugly. They don't work. They kill your birds. They're bad for the environment. And if you look at them from a house, your house is worth less than 50%. So I'm trying to have people learn about wind real fast, and I think I've done a good job, but not good enough because some countries are still trying, and they're destroying them.
Okay, none of that makes any sense. His yammering on about wind, speaking for the fossil fuel lobby, which he likes to do. Again, still waiting. Here was Donald hiding his hand
Jobs are down, actually substantially down,
at that
and
cabinet
private
meeting
jobs are
on
way up.
Tuesday.
And these are the jobs that make money.
Okay, so that was what was going on. I'm gonna pop over. And, we're waiting right now. Again, it's already 2:03. There's no sign of the White House feed. We're waiting for that now. I'm not sure if anyone else is seeing this. Um, you know, no. What the reporting is saying that he's here to speak about Space Command.
Justice to turn
Here we
over the
go.
Epstein files. Of course, then there's the government shutdown part of this year. Government spending runs out here in the weeks ahead. And there's little indication that this White House or that the Congress have much of a plan to come up with 60 votes in a Senate on how to actually put an extension and not force the government into a shutdown. And all of this at the same time that, of course, the president 2 weeks ago had met with Vladimir Putin, had suggested that he would make a determination in 2 weeks termination in 2 weeks time on whether Putin would agree to meet with Zelensky and him in a trilateral meeting. That agreement hasn't happened. So are members of Congress up on Capitol Hill going to take another step to actually try to hold Russia to account? There's a lot of questions here as the president is prepared to take the podium in a matter of minutes.
I mean, there's so much going on. When I turn to Mel right now, I'm confused about whether I should ask her about Epstein, whether I should ask her.
Right, guys. Look, I really want to know what's going on with the Epstein files. I look forward to hearing from the victims tomorrow. And I want to point out to you that we were in the middle of this process to try to get votes on immediately releasing the full Epstein files when the Republicans ran out of town for their summer recess. But now that was in August, and now we're back, and there's going to be a press conference tomorrow. And these victims deserve to be heard. We need to understand how painful it is for them to see, and we've seen them write this to the judge, and some of them speak out, but how painful it is for them to see and hear Jeff Epstein's name and Ghislaine Maxwell's name, and to have absolutely, I'm just going to remove this until we see something happening, and to have actually no movement forward, to have them more interested in protecting the people, whether it's a potential pardon for Ghislaine or protecting Donald Trump or the other wealthy, well-connected men who were tied to Epstein, protecting any damage to their reputation that could come from the association or the accusations of criminality. More interested in that than interested in hearing from the victims. Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, who sat down 2 different days with Ghislaine Maxwell and interviewed her. And maybe there was even a third day when they spoke. I don't really know fully how many days. I think it was 2, or if not more. Has not sat down with the victims or the victims' lawyers. This is not about getting the truth out there. This is about scrubbing history, scrubbing the files, manipulating the news cycle so that we don't focus on the fact that Donald Trump was close, if not best friends, with the leader of a world wide child sex trafficking ring for 15 years, sent him weird, cryptic, sexually suggestive birthday card, also was allegedly present, according to testimony from Ghislaine Epstein's trial, present when when Jeff Epstein was making lewd comments about a 14-year-old. There is no way Donald didn't know what Jeff was doing, and either he participated or he looked the other way or he envied the man for what he did. But there's no two ways about it. Donald Trump does not care about victims of sexual abuse. And in fact, we know he owes E. Jean Carroll $83 million in connection with the two lawsuits, more than 83 million, I think, in connection with the two lawsuits he lost, the civil lawsuits, finding not just that he sexually abused her through that digital rape. I don't mean digital like online, but I mean using his fingers in a dressing room in New York in the 90s, and the defamation. And this is so serious that it's going up to the US Supreme Court. So Donald Trump does not actually care about women. In fact, the men that he has worked to appoint to the most high-level positions in this country had credible allegations of sex abuse. Look at Brett Kavanaugh. Look at Pete Hegseth. I don't even want to keep listing these people because it is absolutely too upsetting. Oh, Matthew J said they've moved it to 2:30. What could be happening? Is he muttering and mumbling, or are they getting his hair done, or is he having some kind of breakdown? Oh boy. So let's while we're waiting for the announcement, I think this would be a good time, guys, to walk through for some of you who are new to the show or just want your memory refreshed. This would be a good time for us to walk through my Epstein timeline. It's not complete. It includes some things about Donald Trump that don't fully relate to Jeff Epstein. It's providing a context, a historical context, a legal context for Donald Trump's relationship with Epstein. Now, in July, when the press was hounding Donald Trump because Pam Bondi said, we're done, case closed, we're not going to release anything else on the Epstein files, in the press, the public, the QAnon, the left, everyone said, what the hell? Donald Trump literally said, I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I think you might remember this. And, he seemed to be a little bit obsessed with Epstein being dead, right? There is something very weird about Donald Trump and how he has been freaking out. So about Epstein, I'm going to share something from early July.
Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the staff?
Yeah, sure. If
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what.
Okay. That wasn't the only time, right, that he freaked out. It was later when they kept asking him. He's been dead a long time. He wasn't a big deal in life. So I'd like to share with you a little more about Donald Trump's thoughts on how Epstein died and how being dead should make him go away. So this is Donald Trump speaking with Jonathan Swan about Ghislaine Maxwell. This is while Donald was president. It's in 2020. It's before Joe Biden took office. And it's when Maxwell is in prison before she's prosecuted.
Mr. President, the other day a reporter asked you about Ghislaine Maxwell. You said, quote, "I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, but I wish her well, whatever it is." Mr. President, Ghislaine Maxwell has been arrested on allegations of child sex trafficking. Why would you wish such a person
first of all,
well?
I don't know that, but I do know that
She has. She's been arrested for that. You know
her
that.
friend or boyfriend
Epstein
was either killed or committed suicide in jail. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty. I mean, do you know that?
Oh, so you're saying you hope she doesn't die in jail? Is that what you mean by wish her well?
Her boyfriend died in jail, and people are still trying to figure out, how did it happen? Was it suicide? Was he killed? And I do wish her well. I'm not looking for anything bad.
On the one hand, sounds kind of nice, like he's wishing someone accused of a crime to get due process. He doesn't seem to care about due process for most people. But on the other hand, it's a veiled threat. Like prison is a place she might be where she could get killed, almost like keep your mouth shut, right? And now years later, when Ghislaine is being interviewed about these Epstein files, you know, we have Todd Blanche, you know, working on the cover-up. So I want to share with you from late July, Sheldon White House, on the very, very unorthodox first meeting between Blanche and Maxwell.
First, just how very bizarre it is that the Deputy Attorney General of the United States is going out to do a witness interview. It really raises the question whether he's doing that in the role as Deputy Attorney General of the United States, or if he's stepping back into his role as Trump criminal defendant and having kind of a Tom Hagen moment with this particular witness. One really obvious question for Ghislaine Maxwell: the Wall Street Journal reporting about the birthday book for Jeffrey Epstein, to which Trump contributed a letter. The Wall Street Journal report on that is that Ghislaine Maxwell put that book together. If she put that book together, she knows about that Trump letter. She may have stored.
Okay, so that was before the actual deposition. And when she was asked about that birthday card, she claims not to remember it, as if she didn't orchestrate the whole book. We heard from the victims, who were some of them whom were involved in helping put that book together. Now, I'm going to continue. So now you have the context for Donald Trump saying, I don't understand it. Why would they be so interested? He's dead for a long time. He never was much of a big factor in terms of life. Well, he was one of Donald's close friends. They lived in walking distance, as if Donald walks, but within a car service or limo distance, both in Palm Beach and New York City. And just because someone's dead doesn't mean they go away. So what else do we have on my timeline? This is some context about Donald Trump. So in 1968, when Donald Trump was 22, he graduated from Wharton. Now, he sometimes claims that he was first in his class. That's not true. And what I have on this slide is that the question of whether one of Donald's Wharton professors repeatedly told his friends that Donald was the dumbest goddamn student I ever had, and that was confirmed. The professor was William T. Kelly, and he apparently told that to attorney Frank DePrima. Kelly passed away in 2011 at age 94. The man taught at Wharton for 31 years. It's pretty remarkable that in 31 years, that Donald Trump was the dumbest goddamn student he ever had. In America, everybody can be president. Okay, what else do I have for you on my Epstein timeline? Again, before we get to Epstein, this is Donald Trump sitting here with Roy Cohen. This is roughly, I'm talking about between 1973 and 75. And just to give you this context, remember, it's 68 when he graduates from college. He goes and works for his father. So it's 73 to 75. This is Trump Management, Inc. In that period, they were investigated by the Department of Justice for housing discrimination. This was a civil case, and they settled it. Donald was around 27 to 29. I looked at the settlement agreement. It was extremely lengthy. Donald considered it a nothing burger, a slap on the wrist, because he didn't have to admit wrongdoing. And it was, it was Roy Cohen. If you look at the movie, well, I know there's a documentary about him that Ivy Mearpole made, but I haven't seen it. But I've seen the film about Roy Cohen. And Donald Trump looked to Roy Cohen, who was a lawyer for the mob, for the mafia, looked to Roy Cohen as his consigliere, as his strongman, as the guy who would do anything to facilitate whatever Donald Trump wanted, or to clean up the mess that he left in his wake. In 1976, in that same time period, is when Donald met and married Ivanka, one of his two wives who came from Eastern Europe. Okay, so she was 28, he was 31. She kind of was the brains behind his business. It is right in this time period, right in this time frame, when Donald meets Ivana and they get married, that Jeff Epstein, fresh out of college without a degree, he just spent a couple years in college, gets a job teaching math and science at Dalton, a co-ed private school, exclusive private school in Manhattan. He was acting creepy. He was the kind of guy, and this is an excerpt from an article where he was showing up at high school parties, where in private apartments, where students were socializing and drinking, and he was the only teacher there. He, of course, lost his job. And as you heard in the really great interview I had with LB, Stephanie Koff, there's some real questions about why he went from getting pushed out of a private school to a very good job at Bear Stearns. Apparently, Ace Greenberg, the head of Bear Stearns, his daughter went to Dalton and had met Epstein and gave him a job and protected him. Around that same time period, Donald Trump had allegedly sexually assaulted Jessica Leeds on an airplane, and she did testify to that, I believe. Then we're getting, still waiting for the White House, but I've got 10 minutes apparently. And now we're getting into when Donald Trump is in the casino business. Funny, the casino business, right? And this is between the beginning in the 80s and going on for decades. Donald Trump, or through his businesses, gets in legal trouble, including with the Federal Trade Commission, the New Jersey Casino Control Commission, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and FinCEN and the IRS, all through his casino businesses that he runs into the ground. There are settlements, well, there are bankruptcies, there are civil settlements like with the SEC for securities fraud. The DOJ didn't go after it criminally. We've got IRS trouble, again, civil deal, not criminal deal. We even have money laundering, right? But it's all that money paid goes away, no criminal charges. This is 87. The kids are young. You can see there's Ivana. Up on the right is Don Jr. In the middle is Eric. And then on the left is Ivana. While he's still married and the kids are young, he has an affair with Marla Maples. And then, of course, we get to same time frame. He's hanging out with Robert Maxwell on his yacht. Okay, and apparently Maxwell's yacht was called the Lady Ghislaine. Quite certainly, Ghislaine Maxwell was there as well. Probably Jeff Epstein, because Epstein by that time was, I believe, gone from Bear Stearns and running his own company. It's not entirely clear, but he at some point in this vintage, Epstein was starting to work for Maxwell and others, trying to do offshore and other tax advantage financial advice. In this window of time is when Epstein, also working for Les Wexner, goes and starts living within walking distance of Donald Trump on East 71st Street, right near, so this would be East 71st Street, on the, I guess that would be off of Central Park, sort of in walking distance of Donald. At that time, there was Donald, while he's dating Marla, divorces Ivana. Sorry, the daughter's Ivanka. The wife is Ivana. Divorces Ivana, and she made a rape accusation in '89 against him, which he later partially retracted. At that same time, right? We know that Epstein was already friends with Donald because the story is that after the divorce, Ivana got Ghislaine Maxwell as her friend, and Donald got Jeff Epstein as his friend in the divorce. They'd already been hanging out together, but it was right now in 1990 when Jeff Epstein buys the house in Palm Beach, a 4-minute drive to Mar-a-Lago. Then, around that time, Donald Trump is really getting into these beauty pageants, and he was helping judge the look of the year. And the winner was 17-year-old Ingrid Stevhavi. You can see her in that bottom corner. That is the winner, but you can also see how young these girls are that he is standing around. Ingrid later goes on, you will see her, to a career at Victoria's Secret. So there is, that same night, he brought as his date, because he is divorced, little Ivanka to this fashion show. In that same time period, when he is a single dad, what does he do with his kids? He goes out and hangs out with Jeff Epstein at a restaurant opening. And again, this is around the time he is heavily into the casino business. Then Maxwell dies. And Donald hosted a memorial for Robert Maxwell. Elaine is fully in America and hanging out a lot with Epstein. We're into 1991. Now, this is really gross. This is 1992, right? At this point, so like we know for sure that Donald Trump was friendly with Jeff Epstein, at least in 1990, probably also into earlier in the late 80s. And this is a screenshot from an Entertainment Tonight Christmas feature from 1992. Right, this is a year after he judged that Look of the Year beauty pageant with teenagers, some of who were under 18. So this is 1992. He's being filmed by Entertainment Tonight, and I'm reading from the article. Trump looked at a group of young girls and said he would be dating one of them in 10 years. At the time, Trump would have been 46 years old. These girls were 8, 9, and 10 years old. Really creepy. Then we get, same year, in 1992. This is a decade before Epstein has his plea deal in Florida. Donald Trump is hanging out in Mar-a-Lago. We've seen this video before. It was from NBC. A year later, when Donald decides to put a ring on it, Epstein was at the wedding. So close enough to be hanging out at parties, close enough to take his kids out to restaurant openings, close enough to come to his wedding. And then 1993, this is about Donald Trump's own depravity. This is Stacey Williams, photo from her at the time. And this is on the right is Stacey Williams. On the left is a little note from Donald Trump, a postcard which says, Stacey, Stacey, you're home away from home. Love, Donald, which is creepy in and of itself. But what she said is that Donald Trump groped me in what felt like a twisted game with Jeffrey Epstein, former model alleges. Stacey Williams said the ex-president, whose spokesperson denied the allegations, touched her in an unwanted sexual way in 1993 after Epstein introduced them. Okay, so we have that. I'm not saying, I just want to be clear, I'm not saying Stacey Williams was underage. I'm saying Donald Trump is a serial sexual abuser, and that age was not important to him. Let's in terms of how young these girls or young women were. And then this is really key because this is based on ultimately testimony at Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal trial. Okay, so what you're seeing on the right is literally a government exhibit. And this was Jeffrey Epstein's scholarship lodge at Interlochen, Michigan, where he funded and which was part of his scheme to abuse underage girls. This was from the DOJ. So just so you know, was not made by any Democrats. This was from the trial presented at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, which took place under I don't know if the trial was in the end of 2020 or when she was sent, or in 2021. I'm forgetting which year she was sentenced. So I'm going to confirm what year the trial was. Okay, the trial was in fact in 2021. So Donald Trump was fully president at that time, if you can call it fully. And what you see here from the article that I quoted, this is a quote: under cross-examination, Jane, which is a pseudonym for one of the victims, testified that Epstein had subsequently introduced her to Trump in person at Mar-a-Lago, December of 1994. A 2020 civil suit that Jane would later file against the Epstein estate and its executors would later allege, quote, introducing 14-year-old Jane to Donald J. Trump. Epstein elbowed Trump playfully, asking him, referring to Jane, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. They both chuckled, and Jane felt uncomfortable, but at the time was too young to understand why. I believe Jane also testified at Maxwell's trial. She was 14 at the time that Maxwell recruited and helped groom her. They found her at Interlochen camp, and it turned out she also lived in Florida, and that is how that relationship and sexual abuse continued. It is now 2:29. I'm not seeing anything happening at the White House. I'll continue with my Epstein timeline and Trump timeline. So this is allegations that went away. Katie Johnson filed several lawsuits, one that was dismissed for lack of jurisdiction out in California, and then I believe in federal court in New York, finally. And then she dropped the case right before Donald Trump was elected in 2016. Here's an article I'm quoting. Katie Johnson's shocking allegations first emerged in a lawsuit filed in California in April this year. She claimed that she was raped by Donald Trump when she was a 13-year-old in 1994, but now she has dropped the case. So that was 2016. In 1996, Donald was posing inappropriately with his 15-year-old daughter. I don't think having his hands on her hips in this suggestive way is cool. It's kind of gross, but that's what he did. Then we have at that same time, you've already heard about this, because she has testified frequently. So this is two sisters, Maria Farmer, who testified, who's spoken out against Donald Trump. And I think she did not end up testifying at Maxwell's trial because I think she was undergoing cancer therapy at the time. Anyway, Ms. Farmer said she recalled feeling scared as Mr. Trump stared at her bare legs. Then Mr. Epstein entered the room, right? This was late night in New York at Epstein's offices. Then Mr. Epstein entered the room and she recalled him saying to Mr. Trump, no, she's not here for you. The two men left the room, and Ms. Farmer said she could hear Mr. Trump commenting that he thought Ms. Farmer was 16 years old. And that is her sister, who was sexually assaulted in New Mexico, who alleges that, and by both Ghislaine Maxwell and by Jeff Epstein. And she tried to get away and lock herself in a different room, and Maxwell threatened her not to speak out. Then, of course, we have in 1996 when Donald Trump attacked E. Jean Carroll in the dressing room. Now, this is a photo from the 90s, not from the assault, but you can see E. Jean right there. Well, you see if in the right foreground is Ivana, and then you see E. Jean. When Donald Trump was asked about this photo, he thought that was Marla Maples, and he also said E. Jean was not his type. He literally looked like his wife, Marla Maples. Of course, and I'm still waiting. Any news about the press conference? It's 2:32. I'm not hearing any news, so I'll continue. This is 1996 to 2015. This is Donald Trump being in the beauty pageant business. He owned Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, and Miss Universe. Where else would you get to, I don't know, stare at, ogle, act creepy around teenagers than beauty pageants, right? Now, beauty pageants apparently have scholarship components. That's not what these are about. Beauty pageants are not about finding young girls, young women, depending on their age, who have dreams and ambitions of scholarly success, of exploring the arts, of learning more about science, of financial independence. No, it's about having teenagers and young women parade around in evening gowns and bathing suits. So, and they may enjoy it, That is, I'm not criticizing the people who participate in pageants. It really helps them. But that's not, Donald Trump wasn't doing it to help them. And we know more about that he would go into the dressing rooms and the girls were, and young women were in stages of undress and felt uncomfortable. Still nothing from the White House. Okay, around that same time, so remember, we think that Jeff Epstein and Donald Trump became friendly in the late 80s. So now it's 1997. And flight logs list Donald Trump on a January 1997 flight on Epstein's private jet from Palm Beach to New York, New Jersey. So he's taken the jet with Epstein. Around that time frame, that person who won the Look of the Year in 1991. So 6 years later, so she was 20 then. 6 years later, she is Victoria's Secret model at a party standing with Donald. She's always said nothing happened between them. Around that time, when he's heavily in the beauty contest world, Marla and Donald separate and then divorce. At that point in time, 21-year-old Temple Haggart, she was Miss Utah, and she was in the Miss USA contest in 1997. She said Donald Trump, who owned the pageant at the time, kissed her directly on the lips. This was not invited. It was not welcome. And it is yet another example of his entitled sexual harassment and assault. That same year, Ivanka tried to get into modeling. And then Donald meets Melania. She's 28, he's 52. Around that same time, and this is really important because it speaks to the modeling world. So Donald Trump, I told you he was in the beauty pageant world. He also had his own modeling. He had his own modeling agency, but so did Jeff Epstein. And what you need to know about Jeff Epstein's modeling agency is that it was an offshoot of a modeling agency that was started in Europe, but was shut down because of complaints about racketeering and about abusing young girls and raping them. Okay, so the person who Epstein hired to set up his modeling agency was Jean-Luc Brunel. I want to tell you this now because we might not get to it. Spoiler alert. When Epstein was arrested, right? And then he dies in prison. And Ghislaine Maxwell is arrested and tried. Around the same time, Jean-Luc Brunel was also in Europe arrested and put in jail, and he was found dead. He supposedly killed himself in prison too. They were all in cahoots. Okay, so let's look. I'm going to read a piece of this article by Conchita Cernoff. Perhaps most disturbing in terms of possible sex trafficking was Epstein's relationship with Jean-Luc Brunel, owner of the MC2 modeling agency. According to a complaint filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, an alleged victim said that Epstein Maxwell, Brunel, Rodriguez, and Markinkova, quote, deliberately engaged in a pattern of racketeering that involved luring minor children through this agency, mostly girls under the age of 17, to engage in sexual play for money. Okay, so this is what this guy was about. And what we know is he helped recruit so-called models, people they were promising modeling careers, largely from Eastern Europe, to bring to Epstein, either on his island or in his homes in Europe or in the US, that he could run through them himself and traffic them. He needed constant new supply. And this is, if you didn't know how close they all were, this is Epstein in the center, Ghislaine Maxwell on the left on the jet, and on the right, Jean-Luc Brunel. Still waiting for the White House. And there was a Dutch model who claimed that that Brunel raped her when she was 18. Right, there are all these stories. In fact, you know, I think I watched at one point, there were stories about Brunel in the US before he came to the US, about young girls who worked at US modeling agencies who were sent over to work for him and were exploited. Then we get to around the same time frame, 1998. This is where Michael Wolff claims that Jeff Epstein said around 1998 was when he took a photo of Trump with topless young women sitting on his lap. And according to what Wolff said, he said, and in some of the pictures, they're sitting in his lap, because Wolff claims he saw these photos in New York that Epstein took out of his vault. And okay, so they were with Trump at Epstein's Palm Beach house, sitting around the pool with these young girls, and the young girls are topless. And in some of the pictures, they're sitting in his lap. I mean, and then there's one I especially remember where there's a stain, a telltale stain on the front of Trump's pants, and the girls are pointing at him and laughing. Okay, really disgusting. Around that same time, 99, Donald Trump is at a Victoria's Secret fashion show. And not only did he, but Jeff Epstein, who he has seen here, Jeff's on the left, Donald's on the right, they both had their own modeling agencies. We get Michael Gross, who follows the modeling industry. He's written books. I think he wrote a book called Model, about a model name. I think her name was Gia. He knows the industry well. And what he said, what Laura Trujillo, who interviewed him, said as follows: Trump and Epstein were representative of a type that has nibbled the edges of the modeling business. If you're in the market for women as sex toys, a higher echelon of that is models. They are by definition beautiful women. They are also beautiful young women, Gross said. You can go from there. Around that same time in 2000, this is when you see this photo you have seen time and time again. There's Donald on the left with his arm around Melania's waist. Then we have Jeff Epstein with his arm around Ghislaine Maxwell's waist. This is February of 2020. Still waiting. He doesn't care about our time at all. Okay, well, while Donald Trump is wasting our time, I'll keep going through this slideshow. Then in 2000, when Virginia Roberts, who became Virginia Roberts Jeffrey, at age 16, she was working as a spa attendant. She was a high school dropout. Her father worked at Mar-a-Lago, and she was working as a spa attendant. And she was reading a book about massage therapy, and Ghislaine Maxwell started chatting her up and recruited her that very day to go work for Jeff Epstein, and they sexually abused her, or at least Jeff did, that night. On your right, you see a photo from a bit later, a couple years later, I believe, and that is Prince Andrew on the left. This is a photo taken in London, and there is Ghislaine Maxwell smiling on the right because she has groomed young Virginia Roberts, who was probably 17 at that time, for the men in their lives. In 2001, yes, I'm hearing that everyone's saying it's a presser about moving the space station to Alabama. Yeah, whatever. Let's just see what happens. So in 2001, we had a former Miss Arizona named Tasha Dixon saying that Donald Trump walked into a dress rehearsal for the pageant in 2001, and everyone was half naked, and the women were told to fawn all over him. He said she was 18 at the time, and Donald Trump came strolling right in during a dress rehearsal. She said it was the contestant's introduction to Trump, and the women were naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position. Then, of course, the famous article from 2002, where Donald Trump is quoted. This is from New York Magazine, written by Landon Thomas Jr. And Donald Trump is quoted, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy." The magazine reported Trump saying in a phone interview, "He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeff enjoys his social life." The name of this article by Langdon Thomas Jr. was Jeffrey Epstein, International Money Man of Business. And the article in a subhead name drops a ton of famous people who he palled around with, including Les Wexner, Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and others. In that same, so now we're kind of getting in this same window of time. So now I'm kind of trying to go from, because that was 2002. So beginning in 2003 through 2019, what's going on with Jeff in the Follow the Money? They called him International Man of Business. Here is a piece in an article that I read. I don't have the source right here, but it says, let me just make this so I can see it better. The single largest, okay, so let me just explain this. As you've probably heard, when banks see suspicious activity, they're actually required to report it to what's called FinCEN, which is part of the US government. I think it's actually housed in the Treasury Department. I think it stands for Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN. And so they didn't really report stuff right away, but what we know now in 2019, after Jeff Epstein was charged for a second time, this time in federal court in New York, as opposed to when he ends up going to prison in Florida on state charges. More on that in a moment. Here's what this said. The single largest suspicious activity report reviewed by the congressional team was filed in the late 2019 by JP Morgan for $1.1 billion. The report covered 4,700 transactions, right? This is about Jeff Epstein. 4,700 transactions dating to 2003, including payments to women from Belarus, Russia, and Turkmenistan. Did I say that right? Turkmenistan. Many of Mr. Epstein's victims included young women from Eastern European countries. The next largest was by Deutsche Bank for about $400 million, followed by Bank of New York Mellon, $378 million, and then Bank of America, which filed reports on Mr. Black, that was Leon Black's payments to Mr. Epstein. So JP Morgan alone reported $1.1 billion in suspicious transactions, including payments to young women from Eastern European countries. What do you think he was paying them for, guys? Okay, then in 2003, what is going on? Have they delayed? Have they made an announcement yet? Because this press conference also just started too, and we've been spending 45 minutes talking about Jeff Epstein instead of Donald Trump's whatever he wants to talk about at 2 p.m. Okay. Lisa Marie, I don't know if there are going to be questions for this press conference. I don't even know if there is going to be a press conference. So in 2003, this is the Wall Street Journal first reported this out, and I'm quoting, Maxwell collected letters from Trump and dozens of Epstein's other associates for a 2003 birthday album, according to documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. And this is apparently a drawing sketch of the outline of a naked woman, and in the center, this is typed voiceover : "There must be more to life than having everything." Donald: "Well, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is." Jeffrey: "Nor will I, since I also know what it is." Donald: "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey." Jeffrey: "Yes, we do, come to think of it." Donald: "Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that?" Jeffrey: "As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you, Donald. A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another wonderful secret. This letter, this birthday card, which people have said was real, in which Donald is trying to pretend he knows nothing about, and Ghislaine as well. In the Wall Street Journal, I trust them. I trust Rupert Murdoch would not have published this. What? I'm sorry, there was a phone interview that dropped? Status shock? Are you? I don't know about that. I'll talk about that later. Anyway, so this is in the context of everything we know about Jeff and Donald. What would they have in common? They both had modeling agencies. They both had homes in Mar-a-Lago. They both had a very active, quote unquote, social life. What does he mean by enigmas never age? Donald Trump has used the word enigma before. He used it when he talked about Ben Carson, when he was appointing him in his first term. Enigmas never age. So does he mean the young women he dated never age? It's very creepy. Whatever wonderful secret they have is a secret. And Donald does not keep much secret. Then in 2004, apparently, well, they were partying together. They were friends. And according to some of the stories, they stopped being friends because Epstein started bidding against Donald for a home he wanted to buy, another home he wanted to buy in Palm Beach. And that made him angry. And even though that is supposedly when they had a falling out, it wasn't until about a year or two later, maybe 2 years, that they dropped him off the rolls at Mar-a-Lago. Now, Donald likes to say recently that it was because he was stealing people from him from Mar-a-Lago. And when he was asked, he specifically spoke about, and here we go, he specifically spoke about Virginia Roberts. That was in 2000. So Donald did nothing between 2000 and whenever it was, 2005 or 6, when he kicks him out of the club after Epstein gets embroiled in the legal case in Florida for a child sex trafficking, also the federal case that gets dropped against him. So it seems more like that they got in a big fight over this house. And there are some people who think that's when Donald, so-called dropped the dime on Jeff. He was so mad at him that he is bidding against him and bidding up the price of this. We won't fully know, probably ever. Okay, after Jeff Epstein is out of Donald's life, Donald moves on and somehow gets involved with Mark Burnett at NBC, and they launched The Apprentice. This is a hugely successful franchise that lasts for 11 years. And it's one of the, I say, chief reasons that Donald Trump became president, because he built up a myth around him that he was a good businessman. And he simply wasn't. It was all facade. Same time he marries Melania. And he starts a fake university. He was forced not to use the word university to describe it. This was a get-rich-quick scheme where people would buy successively more expensive seminars, and he claimed he handpicked the teachers. They were just whoever that got hired to tell people how to get rich, and people lost their life savings, like $10,000 and $20,000 and more. And eventually, he was not prosecuted, but there was a civil case against him, ultimately settled for RICO, racketeering, and by individuals and by, I think it was the district attorney in Manhattan. And I think the amount they ended up settling for, I'm always getting the number, was between like 20 and 30 million. In this case, settled between the time Donald Trump was elected in 2016 and when he took office. Flippin' RICO. And people knew about this and they still elected him. Fake university, fake businessman, fake president. It's all phony. I mean, he actually is the president, but yeah. Guys, any news? Oh, it's on right now? Here we go. I'm not seeing it. Okay, hold on a second, guys. I'm going to try to find it. Yes, guys, I'm watching it right now. I'm getting it.
The finest, the best. And by the way, Canada called. They want to be a part of it, and that'll be great. But Canada wants very much to be included in that. And then we're going to work something out with them, I hope. It will also ensure that our technological capabilities, of which we're way ahead of anybody else, there's nobody close, remain unmatched long into the future. So I'd like to ask Secretary Hegseth to say a few words. He was very much a part of it. And really, everybody behind me was. Every one of these people would call me and lobby me. I said, Katie, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I know what you want. She said, that's right, sir. That's what I want. And they got their way. So I just want to congratulate. These are really special people. They're politicians in many ways, but they're great patriots, I think even more so than politicians. So they fought very hard to get it, and it's an honor to give it to Huntsville. Pete, say a few words, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. As usual, right place, right time, for the right reason. In your first administration, you established the Space Force at a time when we knew we had to be looking to that domain of space. You also reestablished SpaceCom to ensure that priority was put in place. And you, through the Air Force, independently identified that Huntsville, Alabama was the right place to put it. For other reasons, in the next administration under Biden, they decided to move it somewhere else. Well, during that time, the DoD Inspector General, the Government Affairs Office, they did their own assessments. And where did they say SpaceCom should go? Huntsville, Alabama. So what you're doing today, Mr. President, is restoring it to precisely where it should be based on what the Space Force, the Air Force, your leadership believes will give us strategic advantage in the future. That is Huntsville, Alabama. We are way ahead in space, but this will ensure we stay leaps and bounds ahead because that's the most important domain. Whoever controls the skies will control the future of warfare. And Mr. President, today you're ensuring that happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Katie, would you like to say something?
Mr. President, we are grateful for your leadership on this and restoring Space Command to its rightful home in Huntsville, Alabama. This delegation has worked together, both chambers, both parties, to make sure that Huntsville was the place that Space Command called home. As was mentioned, obviously the Biden administration chose to make this political. What we want to do is put the safety and security of Americans first. We want to make sure that our war fighter is put first, and we want to make sure that America continues to lead. And today, Mr. President, you've allowed that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tommy, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great day for our country, not just for our state of Alabama. We need help in our military. We need to catch up. And as Secretary has said, we're not behind in space, but we know where we're at, and we need to expound on that. Now, this move will save the taxpayers $480 million. It's not going to cost more. It's going to cut $480 million. We have the plans intact. It'll be behind a secure wall in Huntsville, Alabama, at Redstone Arsenal. We have 40,000 people there. We have the FBI there. We have missile defense there. We have NASA, Blue Origin, and SpaceX. It is the perfect place for Space Command. I would tell you today, and I've spoke with the president for the last 3 or 4 years about this. If I thought it needed to go somewhere else because I understand the security of our country, I'd be for that. But the best place for Space Command is Huntsville, Alabama, because what we have and what it means to this country is going to be so important. So thank you, Mr. President, for this, and we look forward to building a huge Space Command and having the Donald J. Trump Space Command Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
Sure. Well, Mr. President, thank you. I'll be very brief here. I lobbied the president hard to put it in Ohio, but he said these people behind us, these Alabamas, are just too powerful and too persuasive. And so it's in Alabama. But as Tommy said, this is exactly the right place for Space Force and Space Command. I think Americans ought to appreciate the fact that you can't win the battle of the future unless you control the skies. the cyber security, the communications, the entire infrastructure of the battle in the 21st century will be in space. So it was a visionary move in the first administration for the president to set up Space Force, and I think an equally visionary move to make sure that Space Force is right where it should be in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, anybody want to say anything? Would you like to say?
Mr. President, another promise made, another promise kept. You think about it, Redstone Arsenal is critical to national security. The president said when you were the 45th president, let's do what's right for national security. And today, that's exactly what we're doing. It's not because of this or that. It's because it's right for national security. You think of the 21 categories that were evaluated to determine what was best for national security. All indicators pointed back to Huntsville, Alabama, and Redstone Arsenal. We have the right people at the right place at the right time. Mr. President, on behalf of the people of the 5th Congressional District and all of Alabama, thank you for keeping your word. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Anybody?
Let me just say, Mr. President, I want to say thank you. And thank you for doing this because it was the right thing to do. When they looked at all the numbers, Huntsville was the place to go. And like you say, it was unfortunately pulled out, but you made it right. So I want to just say thank you again for a grateful nation, and to the state of Alabama, we're very grateful. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Throughout history, militaries has always understood that whoever could hold the high ground held the advantage. Space is the ultimate high ground. And what we're doing with moving the Space Command to Huntsville is absolutely critical to our maintaining dominance in that sphere. And it goes hand in hand with what we're trying to do with the Golden Dome and missile defense to defend against anyone else who tries to enter that sphere. So thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. And obviously, national defense is a huge issue. And when you look at the scores, Alabama was #1. And for political reasons, it was moved out of our state. But Mr. President, thank you for making priorities the defense and the warfighter and the safety of this nation. And in the big, beautiful bill, that Golden Dome will be built in Huntsville, Alabama, and we're grateful for that. Thank you.
Listen, as chairman of the Armed Services Committee, I care very much about what's most important for our national security. And the president held a nationwide competition to determine where we should have this command. If y'all remember, at the end of that competition, where Alabama came in first, there was a lot of complaints from the other states who did not place well. He said, we'll do it over with new criteria to accommodate your concerns. Alabama came in first in that second competition. His Secretary of the Air Force reviewed the results, said it was fair, and the president named Huntsville. It was the Biden administration that decided to make it political, even though his own Secretary of the Air Force said it was a fair competition and it should be in Huntsville. So I want you to know I appreciate this president standing up and being strong and saying he's going to make this right and put it where it rightfully belongs. That's Huntsville, Alabama.
Thank you very much. Good job. So thank you all very much. You are going to leave me alone now. You're not going to call me anymore and talk about this subject, right? You promise? They'll start something else. But I just want to congratulate you. It's a very big deal. When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over. Do you have any questions, please? Yeah, please.
Senator Cumberland talked about the cost savings
Yeah.
associated with this announcement. Can you talk about the strategic benefits by having Space Force Command headquartered in Huntsville?
Well, it just works because we have so much else there and having a central, you could call it a central command, but it really is a command station. Also, even locationally, where it is, and when you think about flying distances, if you can save a half an hour as fast as some of these planes go and things go, and even the rockets go, if you can save by having the best location. So we went out.
Guys, for a second, I'm trying to understand what he meant by we shot out a boat. Does he mean that the military shot down a boat in Venezuela? Are we at war? He said we shot out a boat.
Very proud of it. And I would say they fought harder for it than anybody else also. A lot of states, 5 states really wanted it, but they wanted it more. And I kid you not when I say that these people, they spoke to me a lot. That's all they wanted to talk about. They didn't want to talk about the weather. They only wanted to talk about
Did he answer the question about why it's a cost savings?
Huntsville in particular. So we're honored to do it. They really wanted it badly and they got it. Peter?
President Trump, something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend.
Yes.
How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see it for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really?
You didn't see that?
You know, I have heard it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors. I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend. They also knew I went out to visit some people at the club that I own pretty nearby on the Potomac River. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend. I didn't hear that one. That's pretty serious stuff. Well, it's fake news. You know, it's just it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong? I said, I just left. And it's also sort of a longer weekend, you know, it's Labor Day weekend. So I would say a lot of people know I was very active this Labor Day. I had heard that, but I didn't hear it to that extent. Go ahead, Peter.
We know that this country has a huge problem with school shootings. You have said that you're open to sending the National Guard pretty much anywhere. Would you ever consider sending an armed National Guardsman to every school?
Well, we have a big problem with school shooting, but we also have thousands and thousands of schools that run perfectly. You know, they talk about you can do things construction-wise, and that's really I think nobody knows more about construction than me. You can build the construction doors. You can build what they call safety doors, where they lock on the outside, the inside, and every place else. Well, but if one of these lunatics happens to get through, then the police can't get in. Then they're looking for keys all over the place, and it takes a lot of disadvantages to doing, you know, spending billions and billions of dollars and actually making it safer in some way for some of these lunatics that we're dealing with. But I don't think so. I've thrown out the concept. We have great teachers that love our children. The parents love the children. Teachers love the children too. And if you took a small percentage of those teachers that were in the military, that were distinguished in the military, that were in the National Guard, et cetera, and you let them carry, that's something that a lot of people like. I sort of liked it. I'd have to be studied, but they're trained. They know about weapons. You can't do it with every teacher because most teachers don't know, and you know. But
I'm
I always
sorry.
thought that would be an alternative.
I don't think you want me armed.
We've had a lot of instances. Other countries have also. They have different kinds of problems than we have, but we do have. There's something going on. And it's a bad thing. Yes, please.
Have you spoken with President Putin in the past week? Have you spoken with President Putin in the
Yeah,
past
I
week?
don't want to. I have learned things that will be very interesting. I think in the next few days you'll find out.
What?
Consequences if there isn't some type of announcement of a meeting with President Putin and President
Yeah.
Zelensky?
Yeah, there will
And what
be.
could those consequences
We're going to
be?
see what happens. We're going to see what they do and what happens. I'm watching it very closely. Last week, they lost 7,000 between the two countries, 7,313 soldiers, to be somewhat exact, for no reason whatsoever. And they're Russian and they're Ukrainian, but they're soldiers. I want to see it end. Yeah.
Mr. President, have you decided you're definitely going to send National Guard troops to Chicago?
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago's very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets. Last week, as you know, it was 7 people, 24 people hit, and 7 people died. And then over the last 2 days, that was the crown jewel. They had, I guess, 9 or 10 killed, and 50 hit with bullets. And you have this governor get up, who's a terrible governor. Probably he and Gavin Newsom would be probably the 2 worst and most naive. They're naive. Either they're naive or they're very untruthful. And he'll say, we don't want any protection. We don't need. So in the last 3 weeks, he's lost almost 20 people killed. There's no place in the world, including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this. Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now. Parts of Los Angeles.
So guys,
are
I'm
terrible.
going to
If we
do a
didn't
little
put out the
talking.
fires, and I mean
Obviously, he's
the other fires, the bullet
speaking
fires.
pretty much the
They
same
didn't do a good
way
job with. They should have had the
last
water coming
week.
down, like I said.
So I don't
We had to
fully
release the water.
understand.
We had to go in and release the water to LA.
He
It's so
was
badly
looking
run.
so
But if we didn't
pressed,
if
defeated,
I
why
didn't
his
send the
mouth
National
was
Guard
hanging
into
down
Los Angeles, you wouldn't. I would be
the past
making
few
an
days.
announcement today. I'd be talking about Huntsville, and
I
I'd
guess
simultaneously be saying, by the way, the
we
Olympics
can
is
just
not coming
focus on,
to Los Angeles.
I
If
guess
we
we'll just
didn't do
focus
that,
on
if we
Epstein
didn't do
tomorrow.
that, and even the sheriff,
I'm going to
the
watch and see
top
if he
law
faints, but I
enforcement
think this
person
is who
in
he is.
Los
Somehow
Angeles
he's
said,
recovered, or he never was
we
really
could
bad
not
and he
have
was just
handled it
moping.
without them. So that's what he said.
Make your mind up on Chicago, though?
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in. When you lose, look, I have an obligation. This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation. When we lose, when 20 people are killed over the last 2.5 weeks, and 75 are shot with bullets. So let me tell you a little story about a place called DC, District of Columbia, right here where we are. It's now a safe zone. We have no crime. It's in such great shape. You can go and actually walk with your children, your wife, your husband. You can walk right down the middle of the street. You're not going to be shot, Peter. You're safe. Everyone likes you anyway. They probably wouldn't do it. But it's so dangerous. And there are people in this audience that you've suffered greatly. There are people in this audience that have been mugged and hurt badly, and they don't want to talk about it. Maybe you were very brave in talking about it. You made quite an impression on a lot of people. I appreciate it. But there were other people in this room that have been hurt very badly just walking down the street in D.C. Washington, D.C. is a safe zone right now. It's a safe city. The restaurants are open. They're booming. You can't get a restaurant. New restaurants are announcing that they're going to be open. This took place in 12 days. Now it's 15 days, but 3 days ago, it became what's known as a safe zone. It's a safe city. And this city was really bad, really, really bad. We took 1,600 people out, hardcore criminals that will not be coming back anytime soon. And we're very proud of it. You know, to have our nation's capital lose every week, it was like years, many years, where every single week somebody was killed for many
He is not making any
weeks.
sense here. What does he mean? He took 1,600 people
And then we
out.
had last week, it was
Sometimes when you
announced
take people out, it means you
that
kill them.
nobody
Does he
was
mean that
killed last
he
week. And I
told people
made
they
that
can't come
announcement
to
in front of a
Washington,
very
D.C. or put
distinguished
them in
leader of the
prison?
country.
I don't know what he's
And I'm
talking about.
saying proudly, ladies and gentlemen, nobody was killed in Washington, D.C. this week. He looked at me like, what's that all about? I say, yeah, we have a little bit of a crime problem, and we don't have a crime problem in Washington anymore. And the mayor has been very helpful, and the police commission has been very helpful. and it's been a great team. And I would love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops because, you know,
He's lying. I just Googled again. Restaurants in DC are struggling right now.
one of your networks, not a friendly network, except really the opposite, I would say, very unfriendly network. And they interviewed about 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African American, who were black. And they were saying, please, please, please let the president send in. These were people from Chicago. Please, we need help. We need help. We can't walk outside. We're petrified. If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country. And that includes Baltimore. I saw where Governor Moore was asking me to take a walk down the street of Baltimore. Well, Baltimore is a very unsafe.
He's not putting a time frame on it, but you heard Donald Trump say that he is going to send troops into Chicago and he has the right to do it.
You know, we took care. This was a
And now
beautiful
he
thing
wants
that
to send
happened in
troops into
Washington because
Baltimore.
we showed that it could be done. And this wasn't just sending big, strong guys, and they are big and they are strong. You know, we had a great decision from the Supreme Court that had to do with sort of talent. It had to do with you are put down based on merit. You can hire based on merit. So merit for a soldier or for a policeman is strong.
What the fuck
physically
is he
fit,
talking about? He doesn't know what he's talking
having a
about.
certain ability, not a person that is woke and got the job through woke, but wasn't strong enough to lift a gun out of the holster, et cetera, et cetera. No, I looked at the police. As you know, last week I went over, we had a meeting with, there had to be 300 people, and they were all very impressive looking. And when the bad guys see them, they're not going to do a thing. And so I'm very proud of Washington. It serves as a template, and we're going to do it elsewhere. But Chicago is certainly going to be high. I would love to have him call. I would love the governor of Illinois. I'd be honored to take his call. All he has to do is say, sir, we need help. It's out of control. And everyone knows it is. He's not kidding anyone. I would love to have, I would say, Governor Moore call, because I watched him over the weekend trying to explain that Baltimore, what they need is housing. No, they don't need housing. They need to get rid of the criminals. These are hardcore criminals. You know, we took many people off the streets of Washington, D.C. They're hardcore. They're not going to be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be criminals. They were born to be criminals, frankly. They were born to be criminals, and they're tough and mean, and they'll cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next day. They won't even remember that they did it. And we're not going to have those people. Washington, D.C. is now a safe zone. It's a safe place. And you can walk, Katie, you can walk right down the street with, by the way, one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen, which is her husband. He was a football player for like 11 years in the NFL. He's a big person. But big doesn't mean anything when they have guns and when they have knives and everything else that they have, right? But you can walk right down the street, even by yourself, and you're totally safe. Washington, D.C. is a great thing. Yes, ma'am, please.
Calling on Democratic leaders across the country to work with you on crime. Do you see your efforts here in DC, including, for example, working with Mayor Bowser here as a model for bringing more bipartisanship in matters not only with crime, but also issues that matter to everyday American people's lives?
So Mayor Bowser's been great. She could have taken the thing, oh, well, and then after I clean it up, they'll take credit for it. You know what they do is they take credit. Like, we cleaned up Los Angeles. We did a great job there. And it was overwhelming what was going on. And again, the police chief made a statement that we could not have done, there's no way they could handle it. You saw what was happening out there. It was going to be a disaster. We stopped it cold. If we didn't do that, would have been a very sad day. And, you know, remember, we have the Olympics, we have the World Cup, we have all these things coming, and we have 250, all of these things coming. But I watched Newsom get up and say he's doing a great. He's not. We're the ones that did it, and that's okay. Whatever it takes. But the main thing is we. But he got up and said we did it. Well, he didn't want us there, and he's going to need us again because it's starting to form again. I see it. It's starting to form again. You know,
He is a fucking lunatic, you guys.
You can buy it, but you have to maintain it. And if you don't maintain it, a good plane becomes very unsafe very quickly.
He is comparing human beings to an airplane he might own.
It's a lot of presidents wouldn't do what I'm doing. I don't need this heat, but when I watched television last night and I'm watching the news and I see that 9 people were killed in Chicago and 54 were badly wounded with bullets, I say, that's not this country. We have to do something. And I do say this, I say this very much. I'm not speaking to anybody but them right now. I would love to receive calls from governors and mayors saying they need help. We'll help them. We have a lot of people. We have a great force. We have a great military force. You know, Pete will tell you that when I was running for office, and this was a big headline, I think, you know, probably got me a couple of votes, but you couldn't sign people in the military. Nobody wanted to join the military, the Army, Air Force, the Navy, Marines, Space Force, Coast Guard. We never forget Coast Guard because they've done such a great job. Never. But nobody wanted to join any of them. We were way below what we wanted. Every single one. The closest was the Marines, whatever that is. You'll explain that to me. But the closest was the Marines. But every service was way down, way down. And then I got elected, and our country is the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. Everybody's talking about the USA. They're talking about the job that we're doing. Everybody. We have the best economy. We have a very, very important decision being made by the Supreme Court because our country is the richest, the strongest, the most powerful. But if for some reason, some liberal court, I'm talking about the court that just ruled, where even an Obama judge voted in favor of us, which I gave him a compliment yesterday, as you know. I said that took great courage. But it's a liberal court, and it's going up to the Supreme Court, who I think have been incredible.
He
people. I
doesn't
think they
know
make
how
very
to
wise
communicate.
decisions. But the tariff question, because without the tariffs, this country is in serious, serious trouble. We've taken in almost $17 trillion of investment.
Guys, if he needs tariffs, let Congress pass the tariffs.
And if for some reason somebody wanted to be politically correct, I actually think it's unpolitically correct. I think politically correct is to approve it because there's nothing so popular as what's happened to our country.
Judges don't rule on politics. They rule on what the law says, and Donald Trump did not have authority under IEPA. He needs Congress.
Basically saying that the trillions of dollars that are pouring into our country, putting us in a position like no country is anywhere in the world, that they'd like to see us that taken away. By the way, a lot of the people behind that lawsuit, that particular, are from foreign countries. I might add.
There's a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residents upstairs and somebody is throwing a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, that's probably AI generated.
I don't think it's AI.
Actually, you can't open the windows. You know why? They're all heavily armored and bulletproof.
So that's a fake video?
Well, it's got to be because I know every window up there. The last place I'd be doing it is that because there's cameras all over the place, right? Including yours. No, but every window, I've never seen a window that's, in fact, my wife was complaining about it the other day. She said, love to have a little fresh air come in, but you can't. They're bulletproof. And number one, they're sealed. And number two, each window weighs about 600 pounds. You have to be pretty strong to open them up. No, that has to be, where was the window? Let me see.
So Steve Ducey is showing him the video.
Which is the window?
It looks like this is on the 15th Street side, I think. Yeah. So right here.
Yeah, those windows are sealed. Those windows are they're all sealed. You can't open them.
Huh.
It's the kind of thing they do. And one of the problems we have with AI, it's both good and bad. If something happens really bad, just blame AI. But also they create things, you know, it works both ways. If something happens that's really bad, maybe I'll have to just blame AI. But there's truth to it because I see so many phony things. I saw something as I was growing up from the time I was a baby till now. I said, who did that? It was AI generated. So it's a little bit scary, to be honest with you. But those windows are all very heavily sealed.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
I want to
China?
follow up with what you were saying regarding that federal appellate court that ruled against you and your administration as it relates to your ability.
Well, they ruled against our country, the court, and they ruled against us before. It's a very liberal court.
Partisan in your
Well, it
social
certainly
media
is. It certainly
and
is.
in fact, it was along ideological lines, 7-4.
Well, except that we actually got one of the Obama judges that was appointed by President Obama voted in favor of the tariffs because he felt it was imperative for our country to thrive and survive even. And I gave him credit. I said, you know what? That took a lot of courage for him to do it because you don't see that often.
So my question is, I suspect you're going to appeal that all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, we already have, yeah. In fact, we're doing something else. We're going to be going to the Supreme Court, we think tomorrow, because we need an early decision. I mean, look, the financial fabric of our country, we're a rich, incredible country right now. And we're able to, you know, other countries use tariffs on us for years, and we never did. I did a lot during my first term, but then we had COVID and we had to focus on other things. You couldn't be tariffing Italy, Spain,
But we're seeing,
France, as they were
guys,
down
Violet
by the
Strummer in the comments
thousands
said
and
that the White
millions.
House press office has said
But
it was
we did with
contractors
China, and
working
China
on the
paid us
Lincoln Room
billions and
renovation.
billions of dollars. And I
So if
started
this
the
is
process,
correct,
but
I
then
want
I
to
had
pull
end
this
it a little
up.
bit because
Violet
of COVID.
Strummer,
We
can you?
focused
I
on
know who
that.
you are, but I'm using your
But
pseudonym.
no,
Can you find a link to that so I can
it's a
share
very
it?
important
I
decision.
appreciate
And
you.
frankly, if they make the wrong decision, it would be a devastation for our country. We've taken in trillions of dollars. And by the way, all these countries signed agreements as an example.
Guys, it's not, you know, Americans, businesses don't want these tariffs. Also, we shouldn't allow Donald Trump to take the power of the purse from Congress. Go to Congress. That's all he needs to do.
7-4, with one of the most liberal of them all voting in our favor because they're patriots. I think I give tremendous credit to that judge. And now it's going to the Supreme Court. Now we're going to be asking for early admittance. We're going tomorrow, and we're going to ask for an expedited ruling because you know, when you look at the stock market's down today, the stock market's down because of that, because the stock market needs the tariffs. They want the tariffs. If you look at AI, all of those, you know, all of that money that's going to be invested, trillions and trillions of dollars, the biggest thing, bigger than the internet, I suspect. It's the internet plus 3 or 4 other things combined. We are leading very substantially with AI. We're leading because of tariffs. We're leading because of talent, and this is where they'd like to be. But without the tariffs, we wouldn't have a chance because we wouldn't be able to protect those investments of the companies coming in. So if you took away tariffs, we could end up being a third world country. That's how big the ruling. So we're asking for an expedited ruling.
As a backstop to that, President, you have a Republican-controlled Congress. You control the House. You control the Senate.
Yeah, but we don't have 60 votes. We don't have 60 votes.
You
I'd
don't
love to
think you
do
could get
that.
enough
Oh,
votes?
if we had 60 senators, if we got the 60 votes, we would get them. But we need 60 votes.
Yeah, you need 60 votes.
So we need, you know, a certain number in the House. I think we'd get, I don't know, we have about 5 of them here. Would everybody agree with me on tariffs?
You
Without
need
tariffs, we're a
50.
different country.
You need
We have taken
50% in the
so
House,
much money.
a majority in
and
the
here's the thing.
House. If you don't have the votes, you're not allowed to steal the power, douchebag.
Billions of dollars. We signed a deal with South Korea. We signed a deal with the European Union. We signed a deal with Europe. And those countries are paying us $950 billion. And they're happy about it. They're okay. As one of them said, it's amazing.
The countries are not paying the tariffs. It's American business importers.
And they're fine with it. They all signed. If that ruling ever went against us, I guess we'd have to give back hundreds of billions. We would have to give trillions and trillions of dollars back to countries that have been ripping us off for the last 35 years. And I can't imagine it happening. On a legal basis, they have no legal basis whatsoever. But on a common sense basis, it would destroy America. Okay.
You talked about controlling the sky. On Sunday, the satellite signal of Ursula von der Leyen's plane was alleged.
With Ursula? Well, she had an interesting event. She's a tremendous woman. And so what are you asking me about her?
NATO is concerned about the attitude about this
Sure,
territory.
NATO is concerned about it. Well, nobody knows where it came from, but they did take away her ability to use a phone. You know, sometimes that's a good thing.
It's Russia.
Sometimes that could happen to me. I'd be very happy.
Mr. President, reducing the tariffs on India from 50%.
What does that mean?
Are you considering taking away some of the tariffs that you've imposed on India? You had posted.
No, we get along with India very well, but India has, you have to understand, for many years, it was a one-sided relationship. Only now, since I came along, and because of the power that we have with tariffs, India was charging us tremendous tariffs, about the highest in the world. They were about the highest in the world, number one. And we therefore weren't doing much business with India, but they were doing business with us because we weren't charging them. Foolishly, we weren't charging them. So they would send in massive, everything they made, they'd send it in, pour it into our country. Therefore, it wouldn't be made here, which is a negative. But we would not send in anything because they were charging us 100% tariffs. And, I'll give you an example. Harley Davidson couldn't sell into India. There was a 200% tariff on a motorcycle.
But guys, what I want to point out to you is the court has very strong guidance from the U.S. Constitution and the statute Donald Trump was trying to rely on to strike down the tariffs.
Are coming into the U.S. Car companies, AI, but more traditionally, car companies. We have so many car company factories under construction or being designed right now. And they're coming from China, they're coming from Mexico, I must tell you, and they're coming from Canada, a lot of them coming from Canada. But they're coming into our country because they want to build here. And they want to build here for two reasons. Number one, they'd like to be here. And number two, the tariffs are protecting them. And number three, they want to avoid paying tariffs. When they build their cars here, they don't have any tariffs to pay. When you build here, you don't have any tariffs.
Mr. President,
Go ahead,
in
please.
light of the Minnesota shooting last week, the Department of Homeland Security is now awarding more than $100 million to hundreds of faith organizations across the country to help them ramp up security. What's your vision for further protecting religious liberty across the country amid incidents of threats? And
So
violence?
religious liberty is so important. And
So guys, I want to point out to you while he is yammering on that I found the proof that Donald is such an idiot. His own White House spokesperson told Newsweek and other sources that there was a contractor. This is, I think it was AJ who said this. There was a contractor. No, it was Violet's drummer. There was a contractor working on Lincoln's bedroom, and they were the ones throwing things out the window. So Donald is lying, doesn't know the answer, or has forgotten. I am not sure what.
it's very simple. Even Jimmy Carter said it with his commission. They set up a commission with him and Scoop Jackson and some people, highly regarded people. And they said the finding was, if you have mail-in voting, you will have corrupt elections.
This is not true.
Your radical left governor decided that he was going to have all mail-in voting in Colorado. Once you have all mail-in voting, and for whatever reason, the Democrats cheat. And they cheat like, they're not stupid. That's the only thing. They're no good on policy. They're no good on management. They're no good at government, but they're great at cheating. And they stick together too.
He's such an
give them
awful
credit for sticking
person.
together. Please.
Obviously, this is a big win for national security, moving this to Alabama. We've all can agree with that.
Big.
Is there any idea of the economic impact this has on the state and on that local area?
Katie, do you want to answer that?
Look, I mean,
Please go.
this is going to be tremendous. I mean, the state of Alabama, what we've seen through this process is the worst of Washington. We've seen politics get in the way of what is best for the warfighter, what's best for national security. And the state of Alabama is about to show the country the best among us. So we know the economic impact is going to be tremendous. There at Redstone Arsenal, we're proud to house everything from the FBI to headquarters there for material command to a number of things. We obviously have NASA with Marshall Space Flight Center. And so this naturally fits within. When you look at the decision matrix that they placed in front of us, that's why we ranked so high, is because we have the
Lisa Marie asked, what is the point of this conference? And it's a proof of life conference. It's a proof that he is not suffering from a stroke or has recovered from any medical issues, or if he was depressed, is able to stand and speak with people.
So we are
That's
really
the
proud,
point of
and the
this press
people of
conference.
Alabama are ready to get to work.
And I've got a housing question, if you could, just for a second, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
please.
Owning a home and going about the American dream seems like it's out of touch for a lot of Americans. Just
Yeah.
recently, you pushed out a statement about addressing an emergency housing situation.
That's right, we're thinking about doing that.
Yeah, can you just?
Well, we need a little help from the Fed. We have a man named Jerome Too Late Powell. You probably heard of him. He's too late, way too late. And the economy is so strong that it's pushing through that. Normally, it would have been much tougher, but we're doing so well that we're pushing through it. But it makes it very hard for people to get mortgages because too late is too late. Very simple. He's too late. And probably political, whatever. He wasn't too late before the election. Before the election, he was cutting rates, right? Because he was hoping that, I guess, Biden would get in or that Kamala would. He was a big Biden guy. Explain that one. And then he was a Kamala person, but he was hoping, I guess, she'd win. I guess. I don't know. It didn't work out too well. But yeah, we need a very serious cut. You know, I think that if you look back many decades ago, the United States was always the lowest, even if they were doing badly. The United States was, because without the United States, everything in the world would die. It's true. It's so powerful. It's so big, and I made it really big in the first 4 years. Then it started to degenerate with what.
No, Lisa Marie asked, are they going to explain why he was radio silent for a few days? I don't think so. Maybe he was just tired. Maybe he was depressed. Maybe he did have a medical procedure and he was recovering from it. Maybe he had the flu. We just don't know.
Wars. And numerous of those wars were because of trade. And numerous of the trade deals that I made were because of tariffs. It gives you a great negotiating ability. If that ability were taken away from us by a liberal court acting on essentially foreign nations asking to get help from the United States government, when they've been doing this to us for 40 years, that's why we have $38 trillion in debt. We won't have it for long if they let us, if they allow us to do what everybody knows we should be able to do. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, another Biden-era action that you're now reversing is that you signed a deal last week to make federal buildings adopt and embrace classical architecture styles again. Can you talk to us about why you do that, and also what's your vision?
Well, we want to see beautiful buildings. Now, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder. I've seen architectural reviews over the years. I'm an expert at it. I've gotten a lot of great reviews, but I've seen buildings that I didn't think were very good get great reviews, and I've seen great buildings get bad reviews. So, but it's just a standard. We want to have a good standard. We're building something here, you know, for 150 years, they wanted a ballroom at the White House. We're doing something at the highest level using great architects and all. And, you know, it's very exciting. But we have a lot of interesting things happening architecturally in DC. And DC is like a different place. And, you know, even the contractor said, sir, we walked down today, we feel like much safer. It's like a different place. Washington, D.C. is great. Now, we're going to also beautify it. We're going to put a topping on the roads. We're not going to rip them apart and take 4 years to build a road that was exactly the same by the time you build it. But we're going to put toppings. We're going to put new media.
Toppings on the road? Toppings? Is this like a Sunday?
Instead of, you know, a little area where you see new tiles, old tiles that never look too good, but they could use it. You know, they've been up for 50 years. They've served their duty. But we're going to make this within about a 20-mile radius from the White House. We're going to have this place spick and span. It's going to be crime-free, and it's going to be spick and span. It's going to be, you'll be proud of Washington again. Go ahead, please.
Sir, China's having a massive military parade that President Putin and Kim Jong-un will be attending. Do you interpret that as a challenge to this? And are you concerned at all about those countries trying to be some sort of counterweight?
Not at all. China needs us, and I have a very good relationship with President Xi, as you know. But China,
Yeah, someone pointed out Blue Lady, thank you so much. And also, yeah, he must be really messed up because he pronounced Kamala Harris's name correctly.
Meeting with President Putin a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if anything comes out of it. If it doesn't, we'll take a different stance.
March today in California ruled that your deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles was illegal.
Good.
Well, it was a radical left judge, but very importantly, what did you not tell me in that question or statement that you made, pretty much of a statement, I think.
Well, I was asking for your response.
No, you didn't say what the judge said, though. The judge said, but you can leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can continue to be in place. That's all we need. But why didn't you put that as part of your statement? Because the same judge ruled exactly as you said, except the judge said that you could leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can stay, they can remain, they can do what they have to do. Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, press. Thank you. Thank you. Let's head out. Let's go, guys. Thank you. Thanks, press. Thanks, guys. Let's go. Let's go. Keep going. Thanks, guys. Thank you, press.
That was something. So he looked just like himself, just as rambling as he normally is. Nothing indicates that he's suffering from anything particular at this moment. Maybe he was depressed. Maybe he just didn't want to deal with anybody, didn't want to put on the show. Maybe he did have a medical incident. It's all very hazy. Maybe Jake Tapper will write a book about it later and we'll find out what happened between Tuesday and Friday. I think it all got kicked off when JD Vance said sometimes, tragedies happen, and if God forbid something tragic happens, he's ready to step up. Maybe that sort of picked things up. I'm not sure, but the good news is tomorrow at 10:30, we have something worth watching and listening to, which will be the Epstein victims. I want to thank you guys for sticking with me and watching that really painfully sort of, I don't even know what to say, boring, inconsequential news conference. The only thing I'm wondering is when you said that we shot up a boat, what boat is he talking about? Who's we? And are we now at war with some country? So that we will find out about soon. Love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.